What's up, everybody? Matt Moran here for another weekly update. I hope everyone had a safe holiday here. I am filming this video on Wednesday because I will, of course, be enjoying the holiday myself on Thursday and want to have this video up in time on Friday for you guys. So because of that, I'm going to miss out on a few of the Goodwood debuts that are happening on the 4th of July that I won't be covering here in the video, but I will be covering all of those next week. So because of that, the news is a little shorter this week, also because of the holiday week. But anyway, still lots of exciting stuff here. The first is Honda has submitted a patent here for this new two-door sports car with the Japan Patent Office. And so this was discovered by various sources, including Auto Guide, Auto Week, and a couple of others. And so it shows a pretty production-ready coupe here that looks similar to the Honda E hatchback and like a slightly toned-down version of the sports EV concept that Honda already showed back in 2017, actually. And so, I mean, that concept proved that Honda was considering something like this already, and it was, you know, right alongside the same time as, you know, the E prototype that they had, the urban EV concept back then it was called, and that has come to production now as the E, at least for Europe. We're not getting it here in the States, unfortunately. Still really bummed about that. But actually, whenever the Honda people are asked as to why they aren't bringing the E hatchback here, they say they have other plans. That was one of the interviews recently, and that's what they said. So those other plans, maybe that could be this. You know, you kind of lead the futuristic electric car stuff from Honda with a Halo model instead of, you know, a little hatchback. And then maybe if everyone's like, wow, Honda has a cool electric car, then you bring in the hatchback maybe later on. Who knows? But anyway, so, you know, it's still uncertain when this is, you know, going to see the light of day. You know, again, these are just patent images, but it's most likely, you know, the Tokyo Motor Show is in October. That's a likely time for them to show it, or just online. Any other time is fine too. And it could, you know, most likely just use even the same powertrain as the E hatchback, which, you know, isn't a ton of power. I think it's like 150 odd horsepower, you know, but it's very torquey still with that electric motor, and it's all instant. So it still makes for a pretty quick feeling vehicle from what I've read, at least. So we'll have to see, you know, maybe they'll pump it up a little more if they do produce this sportier version as well. But anyway, exciting to see that nonetheless. The other EV story this week, only two here, is that, you know, last week I talked about the BMW Vision M Next concept, which is this very cool looking vehicle that's hinting at either a future M1 redo or a new i8. Anyway, back last week I mentioned how Hans Zimmer, the famous music composer, was hired on to compose the soundscape for these electric vehicles and what they're going to sound like. And so they actually just this past week have revealed a short teaser image or clip, sound clip here, of what it's going to sound like under acceleration in Boost Plus mode in future BMW electric vehicles. So I'll let you hear that here in a second. So, sounds really, really cool to me. I don't know about you guys, but if I was feeling the G-forces I feel in something like a Tesla Model 3 and then have that sound going while that's happening, that would make for a much more exciting experience, and definitely a lot more exciting than the silence you get in electric cars currently. And so I'm pretty excited about that. That's very cool, and I'm hoping to hear more here, you know, as they reveal it. For some gas-powered performance stuff this week, though, Mercedes-AMG has revealed their new hand-built 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine that's going to be going in the 45 series AMG models. So the A45 that the rest of the world gets, except for us here, and then the ones we'll be getting as well, you know, the CLA 45, the GLA 45, and the GLB 45. Mercedes will actually show the A45 and the CLA 45 here at the Goodwood Festival of Speed this week, and unfortunately, again, I'm missing out on that, and I'll be covering that next week. But anyway, the official name is also unfortunate here for the CLA, because the official name is Mercedes-AMG CLA 45S 4MATIC Plus Coupe. So, yeah, a full-on novel for the title of that vehicle, but yeah, anyway, well, I'll just call it the CLA 45 and that's it. But anyway, yeah, the GLB 45 was actually spied this past week too, so that's another one that's, you know, going to be coming very soon. And thanks to my spy photographer, Brian Williams, for grabbing these shots. It was actually fueling up near the Nürburgring as it continues its testing there. And yeah, and there were a few little teaser clips that they actually revealed here on Twitter, and the video clips sound really good. You can go check out my Twitter at Matt Maran. I retweeted those, and so you can hear the way that engine sounds. It's going to sound pretty sweet. But anyway, getting back to this engine here. So it's the most powerful series production 4-cylinder in the world, making 416 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque in its S trim. Now there's going to be a standard 45 that's going to do 382 horsepower, 354 pound-feet of torque from that same engine, just on less boost. And then even in standard form, it's more powerful than the outgoing 45 engine, which had 375 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. So a little bit of an improvement even over that. But again, you go for the S1, it's even more bonkers. That new engine also has a 500 RPM higher red line, so it goes to 7,200 RPMs now. It's also now both port and direct injection, which should help greatly for reliability, so they don't get gunked up like every German car, and many other European and even Japanese brands can get some of that gunking if you don't have both port and direct. And so AMG, their reasoning for having port injection, though, they say is they needed it to get to that high horsepower number, and I guess both port and direct work together to give you a higher fuel pressure at those upper RPMs, and so that's what they needed it for, supposedly. It also has a variable exhaust valve timing, similar to like a VTEC type system, and so that will open up in those higher RPMs and hopefully make it really scream, which is pretty cool. There's also a new twin-scroll turbo that spools up quicker as well, and there's a lot of other details that they listed out that I'm not going to cover here because it gets a little tedious, but if you're curious for more information, I will link in the description below an article from Car and Driver that goes over all the details, and maybe my buddy Jason from Engineering Explained will go into detail on this engine down the road as well. But anyway, interesting to hear that. And we have some great news from manual transmission fans this week from Aston Martin. So their CEO, Andy Palmer, told Australian website Car Sales that the Vanquish supercar that's coming in 2022 will be offered with a manual transmission. Now, you'll still be able to get a dual clutch if you want, but yeah, it's going to have a manual as an option. It's, of course, the Vanquish, they're saying it's going to be paired up with the twin-turbo 3-liter 6-cylinder that's going to be electrified and hybridized in some way, similar to how it is in the Valhalla that they just finally announced the name for recently. But in that, it's supposed to be like 1,000 horsepower. This is going to be way less and kind of compete with some of the lower end supercars and not be hypercar type status. But anyway, it's awesome to see that it's going to be getting the manual here, and that's now the second model because, of course, the Vantage Aston Martin just recently announced will be getting a manual option next year. So you're going to have that, hopefully continue with the manual for a while, and then you're going to have this as well. So they'll have 2 manual transmission supercars here whenever basically all the other manufacturers have ditched them at least 5 years ago. So great to see that, and way to go, Aston Martin. And there are a couple new vehicles that were revealed this week. First off, Audi has revealed the 2020 S8, and only given us a few images here of it, but it ditches the A8's V6 for the 4-liter twin-turbo V8 that does 563 horsepower, 590 pound-feet of torque. No transmission was listed, strangely, but I'm guessing it's paired up with the same or a very similar 8-speed automatic as what you get in the regular A8. It also gets the 48-volt mild hybrid system like the A8, but in the S8 here, it's got a sportier twist to it, of course. So it helps the suspension to be sportier with active features like it'll lift or lower a wheel independently over rough roads to kind of smooth out the ride. It also can lift the car up to 2 inches to help getting in and out of it for people who want a sedan but want the ease of entry and exit from like a crossover has. And then there's even a Comfort Plus mode that leans into corners by up to 3 degrees, which is similar to the system that I loved in the Mercedes GLE that I just reviewed. I don't know how many degrees that one was, and that was also, I think it had a sportier setup because it was actually called curve mode. This is supposed to just make things extra comfortable by not having any lean or roll, and leaning into the corner instead. But it's still awesome that it has that. I love that feature in these new active suspensions. It also gets 4-wheel steering and a sportier rear differential. The brakes are insane 10-piston calipers in the front there. You can also get lighter carbon ceramic brakes too if you'd like, but 10 piston brakes, that's basically what you get on a Lamborghini Urus. Considering the part sharing, these could basically be Urus brakes or maybe a little bit toned down, we'll have to see. And there's no performance numbers revealed yet as far as 0 to 60 or anything, and no pricing has been revealed yet either, because again, this is mostly a European release. That's also why the vehicle you're seeing here is the short wheelbase, but we will not get a short wheelbase S8 here in the States. We'll only be getting the S8 in the long wheelbase version here for the United States. And so anyway, yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get more info here on it later on this year. Yeah, we also know there's going to be an S8 Plus coming. That's going to have, more horsepower to actually compete with the S63s and stuff like that are a little faster. But anyway, interesting to see that. BMW has also revealed the 2020 X6 this week, and it's based on the X5 like the previous version was, but the looks here are a little more unique this time with a more angled front nose, and it gives a little more aggressive look. And you also have some rear taillights there that are similar to the 8 Series and other vehicles. Another interesting styling thing is that the illuminated kidney grills are now an option, and so you have to let me know your thoughts on that look in the comments below, but I'm sure that all other BMWs will be following suit with this if it is successful in the X6, and it's all about the bling. Mercedes has the illuminated Mercedes badge, and you have a lot more of that kind of stuff rolling out to other manufacturers as well. So I guess we should have expected this, but yeah, let me know. I'm not sure how I feel about the look yet. It's a lot of lighting up front there. Other things here though, engine-wise, it offers most of the same options as the X5, meaning the base engine is the turbo 3-liter inline 6 that does 335 horsepower, 330 pound-feet of torque. It doesn't get the regular 50i V8 version, but does get the other motor from the X5, the M50i version, which uses a 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8, and that does 523 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque, and so that's going to be the performance option for now, although we know, of course, an X6M is going to be coming once again like it has for the past 2 generations, and that'll give you even more power. But anyway, this all for the both these versions, it all runs through an 8-speed automatic. The 40i version is available with rear-wheel drive, but all-wheel drive is an option on those. All the other models get all-wheel drive only, for the V8 ones there. And it's actually a system that still runs 100% rear-wheel drive until it detects a need for the front wheels. Then it will kick those in. So it's going to definitely be a very, very rear-biased system, which should help with driving dynamics for sure. You can also get the dynamic handling package like other BMWs that includes rear-wheel steering and active roll stabilization, a bunch of other stuff. It has an active diff that does torque vectoring, and that's standard on the M50i version but optional on the 40i's there. The interior is basically all X5 just with less headroom in the back, which is the typical trade-off you get, that and less cargo space with all these SUV coupes that I still don't understand the appeal of. But anyway, it's still a very nice interior nonetheless. And so anyway, prices are going to be starting at $65,295 for that base 40i version, and they go all the way up to $86,645 as the starting price for the M50i. So I'm sure with options you could get one of these pretty close to $100,000 if not over it. And so anyway, these are going to be arriving in dealers in November. I think they said production starts in August. It's cool to see that. Another vehicle that got pricing this week finally was the Shelby GT500. So we now know the price, and including destination and the gas guzzler tax, it'll start at a price of $73,995. So $74,000, which makes it more expensive slightly than the Hellcat Red Eye and makes it more expensive than the Camaro ZL1 and even the ZL1 1LE version, which already has all the track stuff on it, fully loaded up. You're still under that price. So the Camaro is looking more and more like a bargain as the time goes by here. But anyway, of course the Shelby has more power, and I'm sure we'll have to see how things play out on the track. But interesting that the Shelby is a little bit more expensive, I think, than some people were expecting. Anyway, and it can also get even more expensive here because you can load one of these things up to nearly $100,000, and most of that is thanks to this carbon fiber track pack, which is $18,500. And this is what we saw when we were seeing the spy photos back in the day of, one vehicle had the huge spoiler on the back, the other one had a smaller one. This is this big spoiler of one. So this gets carbon fiber wheels that are on Michelin Sport Cup 2 tires that are like a ½ an inch wider in the back. You also get a GT4 wing that's way bigger front splitter wickers, Recaro seats, and a rear seat delete. And if you don't need all that though, there is a much cheaper handling package that gives you a gurney flap on the standard spoiler and also gives you the splitter wickers. And so I think that's about $1,500 for that package. Then there's also Recaros you can get as a standalone option for $1,595 if you'd like. There's also a technology package too that gives you the same stuff it does in the Bullet, which means you get the B&O Play stereo system, navigation, the blind spot monitoring, and rear cross traffic alert, and one or two other things. And so yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, the thing is, these things are gonna have markups like crazy anyway, so the price is actually pretty irrelevant at this point in time because no one's gonna see MSRP on these things most likely until the winter easily, considering these aren't even gonna be arriving until the fall. And so yeah, it's pricey. I'll have to reserve judgment till I drive one to see if it's worth the money. Obviously, there's much slower and more expensive vehicles out there. So yeah, anyway, let me know your thoughts on the price in the comments below. The last news story this week is also somewhat Mustang related, and it's a little bit of a bummer, but it's that one of the fathers of the original Mustang, Lee Iacocca, has died at the age of 94, and he was really just one of the executives over the past 50, 70 years even that has just been an enormous success, a huge game changer, and has shaped the entire car world and history in general in America in so many ways. I mean, he was one of the guys who launched the Mustang. He didn't design or develop it as far as engineering or anything goes, but he marketed it, and that's what made the huge success that it was for the Mustang. And that was under his command there. And he also later on reintroduced a bunch of Mercury stuff. He also was the guy that came up with the minivan, bringing it to America at least. He saw how they were taking off in other parts of the world, and wanted to do that. Ford wouldn't do it. Ford fired him, and then he went to Chrysler and introduced the Dodge Caravan and Plymouth Voyager, which took off and were like the best-selling vehicles in their class for 25 years, and just amazing successes. Like literally, he invented the minivan for America and came up with the Mustang. And so I had to talk about it because, again, without him, we probably wouldn't have the Mustang today, and I wouldn't have the car that I absolutely love sitting in my garage downstairs. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer, but he lived to the age of 94, a very full and very successful and great life. And so anyway, may he rest in peace. But yes, that's it for all the news this week, guys. So I hope you guys have a great holiday weekend here. Thank you guys very much for watching this weekly update. Let me know your thoughts on everything in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.